In this video, I will show you 8 Flexbox and Grid techniques I use in every project. If you have been learning Flexbox and Grid, you probably know the basics, the theory that most tutorials teach. But I think much more important than just the theory are the layout patterns developers use again and again. Simple things like even columns or stacked grids, but also complicated logic like how to get a responsively wrapping grid or how to fix the floating footer problem. In this video, I will teach you all of that and more, so that you have a toolbox of reusable patterns you can apply to almost any layout every time. Alright, first pattern, isolating a simple item inside a Flexbox layout. You run into this constantly. You build a navbar, everything looks fine until you realize you don't want all links grouped together. You want the home link on the left and the rest grouped together on the right. Now, here's the problem. With only Flexbox properties, you will hit a wall. Yes, justified content can push everything to the start, end and center. And sure, you have special values like space between, space around and space evenly. But none of those values can isolate one item while keeping the others grouped. So here's the trick. Target the home link first, which is the first list item. Here you can apply margin right auto, because in Flexbox, an auto margin absorbs all remaining space. So home gets pushed to the left while everything else gets pushed to the right. Another cool thing auto margins can do is self-balance and create some unique layouts. For example, if you pick the third list item and give it margin right auto but also margin left auto, then that one is centered while the other ones get pushed to the sides. So remember, whenever you need a unique layout like this, that would not be possible with Flexbox alone, consider using auto margins. Pattern number 2, one of the most powerful features in CSS Grid is grid template areas. It lets you build layouts in a really visual way, because your CSS code is actually going to look like the layout you're building. On grid template areas, you define the layout using strings. Each string is one row, and spaces split the columns. That way, it is much easier to design complex grids, because you can see the layout directly in the code. Here's an example. Let's say you wanted to build this website layout here, which I designed in Miro. To understand this layout, let's break it down into the core building blocks. Essentially, we have a navbar at the top, a sidebar on the left, and main content on the right. And of course, the main content has a few more elements, but that doesn't matter for now. Now over here, I have the same layout a bit simplified, because once these areas are clear, the CSS now is extremely simple to write, because using grid template areas, we can define exactly where each grid area should go. First, we define the entire grid structure itself. I'm going to do that on the body, because this grid layout should control the entire website's content. We need 2 columns and 2 rows. The sidebar should be 300 pixels, and the rest of the page can be one fraction. Now let's set up the rows. The navbar is auto, and the content uses one fraction. Now to the important part, the grid template areas property. This property lets us define the layout using strings. Each string represents one row. The first one contains the nav. I'm going to write it 2 times because we have 2 columns. Row 2 contains the sidebar on the left and the main on the right. So at the end, this is all we need for this property. Now we just need to assign these named areas to the actual elements. So in HTML, you would typically have a navbar, and a side and a main element. What's inside these sections doesn't matter now. They have their own CSS styling. The only thing we care about is the grid area property. For example, I go to my nav element and assign the grid area nav. I have to write it exactly the same as in the string where I defined this grid area. The assigned element will get the grid area sidebar. The main element main, and the moment we do that and save the file, the layout will snap into place instantly. So using grid template areas allows you to turn a design directly into a CSS grid layout. As long as you know how the layout is supposed to look like, you can adjust the strings for the grid template areas so that it matches perfectly. It works for simple things like this, but even for complex dashboard layouts and bento grids. And this is exactly why I like planning layouts in Miro, who is kindly sponsoring this video. Miro is the AI innovation workspace with this massive collection of templates. It has all the tools and diagrams you need for brainstorming and planning software with your team. But there's more. Thanks to Miro AI, we can generate entire diagrams, but also solve specific problems like converting this grid design we had earlier directly into the CSS code I need. There is so much more Miro can do, so I highly recommend that you try it out yourself using the first link in the video description. Now to pattern number 3, increasing an element's clickable area. Picture this. You have got a clickable element, like a label, inside a bigger container. The label controls a checkbox next to it. So when you click the label, it toggles the check mark. Now imagine you have many of these items. Some labels are short and some are long, but visually every row has the same container width. And that is where the problem shows up, because when I click this empty white space inside the container, nothing happens. Even though it looks like the whole row is one clickable thing, the actual clickable area is only as wide as the text. The solution involves Flexbox. The parent container already uses display flex. Now the only thing you need to do is address the label and apply a flex grow of 1. That's it, because now the label expands and takes up all the remaining space in the row. So even though the text is short, the label's hitbox, meaning the clickable area, fills the white space. Now you can click anywhere in that row and the checkbox still toggles. Now to pattern number 4. This is one of my favorites. In CSS, we can often replace the need of position absolute if we just use CSS grid. Picture this. You want to place text on top of an image. Most people reach for absolute positioning. Here, the wrapper would need position relative and the text needs position absolute. Then you would use the top, left, bottom, and right properties to place the text anywhere you want. Now this solution works totally fine. But I think using grid, we have a much more elegant solution. So let's remove all of these absolute positioning, and instead I set the wrapper to display grid. There's no need to define columns or rows here. All you have to do is place both the image and the text into the exact same grid cell. Write grid area 1/1. You do that for both the image and the text. That is the whole trick. Since we have not defined any columns or rows, the grid is going to be a 1x1, meaning it has only one grid cell. The image is the base layer and the text sits on the top. And what makes this even better is that we are now officially inside a CSS grid layout, which means you can use all those shiny grid properties for alignment. For example, you can use place items center to place it in the middle, which is actually a lot easier in grid than with absolute positioning, where you need all those weird 50% calculations. If you want the text at the bottom, just write place items end. So the next time you need to stack elements, use CSS grid. Next up, how to get even columns. This one is the fastest trick in this video, and you will use it all the time. The goal is simple. You have multiple items next to each other. They should all have the same size, and they should also fill the entire width. So if there's more space, they grow, and if there's less space, they shrink. And no matter how many items you add or remove, everything should stay perfectly balanced. Now in Flexbox, this layout is very easy to build. The parent uses display flex. Then you only need to target the chart elements and apply flex 1. That's it. Now every item grows and shrinks equally, and they always split the full width evenly. Using CSS grid, you can achieve the same thing. On the parent, you change the grid auto flow to column so that every newly created element ends up in a new column. And the size of these columns should be very flexible. For that, you use the grid auto columns property and apply 1 fraction. This will get you the same result. The advantage is, in CSS grid, you don't need to target the chart elements. The downside is, it is 1 extra line. So pick the one you prefer. Next pattern, build a responsive grid without media queries. Let's say you're building an online shop and you need a responsive grid that adapts to the screen size. As the screen gets smaller, the layout should naturally go from 4 columns to 3 columns to eventually only 1 column. And if you want to build this without using media queries, you need to understand the repeat function. On grid template columns, where you define the size and the amount of columns, you use the repeat function. The first argument of this function defines how many times you want to repeat. For example, 4. And then the value you want to repeat, 300 pixels. But of course, this is a fixed amount of columns. So if you want to change this value responsively, instead of using 4, you should use auto fit. Now you're basically saying, automatically fit as many 300 pixel wide columns next to each other. In the browser, you can see how the grid changes responsively. When the screen gets smaller, the grid automatically drops a column. When there's more space, we get a new column. Using justify content center, you can center the columns and place them in the middle. As you can see, there are no breakpoints, there are no media queries, and this is the grid I'm using 90% of the times. But sometimes you might want these columns to grow and fill out any leftover white space. You can see at this screen size, there's not enough space to create another column, but we do have some white space, so the remaining columns could be a bit bigger. So in that case, instead of using 300 pixels, I use the min-max function to define a size range. We can say the column should be at least 300 pixels wide. This is the min value, and then the max value is 1 fraction, which, as you know, is this flexible value, which behaves just like flex grow. It will fill out any leftover space. So the entire line of code is saying, create as many columns as can fit, and each column can be between 300 pixels and 1 fraction wide. Now, as you can see, in the browser, we will get exactly the grid I wanted. Now to the next pattern. This one will solve one of the most common problems on websites. Picture this. You're building a multi-page website, and to keep everything consistent, you use one CSS file for every subpage. So every subpage has the same styles, and of course the same layout. A navbar at the top, content in the middle, and a footer at the bottom. This is the most common and basic layout out there. Now here's the problem. Some subpages are shorter than others, and on these pages it can happen that the footer ends up floating in the middle of the screen, because on other pages the content is long enough to push it down. And of course, you don't want to use any fixed heights because that will cause some weird overflow issues. A floating footer in the middle of the screen does not look professional. So how do you keep the footer at the bottom without forcing fixed heights? Of course, the solution is CSS Grid. You turn the entire page into a simple grid layout. That means we have to define this on the body. Our grid only needs 3 rows: header, main, and footer. And since the navbar and footer probably have their own natural height, these ones should be automatic. So you write grid template rows, auto, 1 fraction, auto. The value 1 fraction in the middle will expand the main content, so it takes up all the remaining space. That means if the page isn't tall enough, the 1 fraction value will fill out the screen and push the footer down where it belongs. So this basic grid layout is so useful that I use it literally in every project. Next layout is the solution for the common 3-card layout problem. Specifically, how to get those buttons aligned across multiple cards. You see, each of these cards has a different text, and if the button comes right after the text, they won't be aligned perfectly. Now this is an age-old problem, so it has many different solutions. And if you have been paying attention to this video, you might already know how I would fix this problem. Option 1 would be to use Flex Grow. If the cards use a vertical flexbox layout, you can address the text paragraph and assign Flex Grow 1. That will push the buttons down, and they align perfectly. Now using CSS Grid, you could fix this with the same trick that solved the floating footer problem. Simply define 3 rows on the card and make the one with the text paragraph grow, using 1 fraction. The other rows stay automatic. That way, the heading of the card and the buttons define their own height. That will also push the buttons down perfectly. But both of these solutions will make the text paragraph grow. So the box is going to be bigger than the actual text. And if you have some kind of styling or you just don't want the text paragraph to grow, then you could also fix this problem much more naturally using automatic margins. Simply address the button and assign margin top auto. That way, the margin takes up all the leftover space inside the card, which pushes the button down. At the same time, we haven't artificially increased the size of the text paragraph. Now this video taught you my Flexbox and Grid patterns, but it is not always that clear when to use which layout system. Sometimes Grid is better and sometimes Flexbox. So if you need more clarity how to handle various situations, I recommend you watch my Flex versus Grid video right here. And if you want to get started with Miro, click the link in the description. My name is Fabian and this was Coding to Go.